So what exactly do you have to do? What exactly do you have to go through? What are the exact struggles that come with making 20K a month as a barber, right? And I'm making this video just to be super open and vulnerable and transparent with every single one of you guys on a mission for me to at least help at least one of you guys through my raw authentic story from the upbringing of where I was just a few years ago to now making over 10K a month consistently as a barber, charging well over $100 a cut, right? And I'm just going to be talking about my stories and my struggles and what I went through and what I actually did in order to get to the point where I'm at today. So it all started a few years ago. I'm 22 now. It all started 4 years ago when I moved out of my hometown in Juneau, Alaska, right? So I'm from Juneau, Alaska, and I moved out of my hometown to Seattle, Washington. And this was at a time where I was very, very honestly just lost and confused, didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life, like most 17, 18-year-olds, right? So I had moved to this new city, Alaska to Washington, where I was doing barber school. On top of that, I was doing college at a community college out there, right? I was living with one other friend, but he was super busy with his own schoolwork and his own sports and education and whatnot, where it felt like I was totally alone, right? This was my schedule. I would go to barber school, right? Basically the whole day. This barber school basically operated like a barber shop where you would come in, do your work, cut hair, and then leave, and then your hours would get logged. And on top of that, I was going to a small community college named Edmonds Community College in Linwood, Washington, right? So at this time, I would see all my friends that I had graduated with going to four-year universities, having a shit ton of fun, right? They were going to parties, they were, meeting a shit ton of people, they're making new friends, right? I had that FOMO in my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm seeing all of my friends like having so much fun in college, and here I am going to barber school, right? And then on top of that, having to do community college work, right? And if you guys don't know much about a community college, it's you don't really get the same college experience as, a four-year university. You're basically just in there to do your work, and you're not really meeting many people whatsoever, right? I was going to barber school with guys who were way older than me, right? There was only like three, four other dudes in there, and they're like in their mid 20s, right? So overall, it just felt so out of place. I was this 18-year-old going to barber school, and I was also doing community college in a brand new city, brand new state, knowing absolutely nobody, no friends, no nothing. I it got to this point where I was doing these same things every single day. It compounded, it got to me mentally. I was like, oh my gosh, bro, like, what am I doing with my life? Right? I felt like I should have been living that college experience, but I was simply just working all the freaking time. And I started to get depressed. I started to get lonely because I didn't have any other friends out there, right? I was just working, right? It was a huge adjustment to go from high school knowing a ton of people, right? I was one of those kids who was a friend to everybody, right? Everybody knew who I was, right? It was an adjustment from going to that to absolutely knowing nobody, working every single day 24/7 instead of going to like high school and socializing. I was just working with people who were much older than me, so I couldn't really relate to them. So that first initial phase, I had to just get over this depressing state. I remember going to barber school and then doing college education and just coming home and just smoking weed and just doing that on repeat and repeat and repeat. And it got to a point where I got so depressed. I gained so much freaking weight to the point where I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, this was after like 8 months in. I was like, what am I doing with my life? I am not happy here, right? But little did I know as well, during that exact process, I had actually learned other skills, but I did not realize it yet, right? I learned how to come and show up to work every single day and make money, right? I learned how to stay disciplined and consistent, right? I always made sure I was getting my college work done. This was a very lonely, lonely, lonely period of my time. The most lonely I have ever felt in my life. I've always had friends, I never really struggled with that. I can't say I struggled making friends other than this year. So this was such a lonely period of my life where that's why I felt depressed, right? That's why I felt anxious. But in the grand scheme of things, it let me actually learn how to be alone and how to actually just love being alone and embody being alone. And I'm so grateful for this moment of my life when I was 18 years old in Seattle, Washington, because it truly developed the person I am today, right? Has a huge play on why I am the way I am today and why I am so independent, right? Because I believe that being independent is so crucial for growth. The point I'm trying to make here is when you're doing the work and you're building your business, you're building yourself, you're going to feel lonely. There's going to be a period of time where you just feel like you're alone because you're simply just working all the freaking time and that's all you're literally doing, right? And it might feel depressing because to me it felt depressing, but I had to reframe my mindset where it's not depressing because I'm going through this shit now so that I could prepare myself for the future, right? I had to shift my mindset from I don't have many friends out here to I don't need a ton of friends out here because I'm okay with being alone because I know that if I can get stuff done, then I will progress closer to my goals, right? And I didn't realize that until the end of my time in Seattle, Washington, where I actually graduated barber school and then I finished my first year of college, right? But at the same time, I was still kind of craving the college experience because I still had that FOMO of like, what would it be like to go to parties, right? To meet a shit ton of people, to live in a dorm X, Y, and Z. And that's when I finally decided to move to California. So that next year, I had moved to Santa Barbara, California with my barber license, right? With 1 year of college done. I went to Santa Barbara City College, but it had a lot more to offer than the last community college that I had. I was seeing a lot of people partying at this school. I was seeing a lot of people making a ton of new friends. And on top of that, a lot of people from other states were flying and traveling to go to Santa Barbara City College to have that college experience. So that's what I did. That's what I was chasing, right? For the first semester, right, I'm going to college. On top of that, I just joined a barber shop, right? Because I knew I still wanted to make money from cutting hair. And then I was partying, I was smoking weed, I was meeting a ton of new people every single day. I was living that college experience. Like 2, 3 months went and I just felt depressed again. I felt absolutely like, what is going on, right? I felt like I was wasting my life. I was back in the same point where I was in Seattle, but for a different reason. And I was confused. I was like, wait, I thought this is what I wanted. I thought the college experience is what I wanted, right? But then I actually had that experience. I got the experience and I learned, I was like, this is not what I want. This is not what I want for my life because I had done all that personal development in Seattle to the point where I was still chasing this college experience in my head, but mentally, my mind was already prepped up to go kill as an entrepreneur, right? So after these 2, 3 month period of time where I was just going to school, college, whatever, smoking weed, partying, meeting a ton of people that honestly were not good influences at all, I finally decided like, yo, I'm gonna take barbering full freaking time. I'm gonna go all in on barbering, right? And that's when I just went all freaking in. I found a mentor, right? I invested 7K into my first ever mentor, basically all the money I really had in my bank account, right? Invested it all into a mentor and I went all freaking in. I went all in on barbering, right? And scaling the business and scaling the social media, right? But I truly do not believe I would be at the point I'm at today if I did not invest in a mentor, right? And why I say that is because imagine putting all your money into a mentor, right? I had so much pressure to succeed. Like I was like, I just put 7 grand into a mentor. There is no way I can't make this shit work. Because if not, I'm gonna be out of 7 grand and I'm gonna be just dead broke, depressed, and still doing the same bullshit that I've been doing. Right? And that pressure forced me to lock in. It forced me to separate myself from the people that were being bad influences and made me go on another lonely path, right? And this is the next phase that I had to go through in order to get to the point where I'm at today, which was more personal development, which was more isolation, which was more doing the work every single day, just like I had done in Seattle. But this time it was a little bit different. Instead of showing up and doing my college work, right, and then cutting hair normally, I was just focused on cutting hair, creating content, editing content, and then posting it. Boom. That's it. Right. I had also dropped out of school during this time. I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I'm dropping out of school. I'm investing 7 grand into this mentor. And at first she was like, Yo, what? Like, what are you doing? My mom was like, What are you doing? Like, no way. You're dropping out of school. Right. But I did it anyways. I didn't listen to what my mom had to say because I knew at the end of the day, right, she has a different mindset than I have. Right. And I knew if I listened to her, then I would end up doing something that she wanted, therefore feeling unfulfilled in my life. Rather, I had to do something that I wanted to do, therefore, then I would be fulfilled. So that's exactly what I did. I invested 7 grand into my mentor, and then I went balls to the wall on creating content, scaling the brand, and making more money as a barber, right? Because at this point, I was making only 2K a month as a barber in shitty bad habits, smoking weed all the freaking time, going to college parties, surrounded by just people who were jerk offs, right? Who were not good influences, right? But once I invested that 7K, I had to lock the fuck in and I had to change who I was. I had to change how I was operating, right? And during this phase, it was about 12 more months until I really started seeing crazy momentum in my business. But during this 12 months, I was just locked in on my business. I was just locked in my business, recording content, talking to my mentor, making sure I was in alignment of where I needed to be, right? I was just locked the fuck in. I remember going to cut hair, working from, cutting hair from 10 to 6 to 7 p.m., right? Recording content all freaking day, right? And then after recording content, walking straight from the barbershop to the UCSB library, where I would walk there and I would edit at least 2 videos so I had something ready to post for the next day, right? I did that consistently. Before I even got my first price raise, I did that for 10 months straight. Imagine cutting hair all freaking day, walking over to the library, and then editing content up until 2 freaking a.m. just to post a video for the next day. I did that every single day for 10 months straight before I even got my first price raise, right? Before I even went from $40 to $65 a cut. And that was probably the most important time of my entire career thus far, was that discipline and that consistency to go and do the things I needed to do every single day and show up every single day, and made sure without a doubt that I posted a video the next day. That point in my life was so freaking crucial because I learned how to be consistent. I learned how to be disciplined. I learned how to be freaking relentless, right? I learned how to be relentless. And if you guys have not read that book, Relentless by Tim Grover, you guys need to read that book or listen to that book, because that book helped me out so much mentally, right? Because there's going to be a certain period of your career and when you're creating content and trying to build a business where you're going to have to keep showing up every single freaking day and not get any results, right? For the first 2 months, none of my videos broke over 10,000 views. Imagine showing up every single day, posting, right? Imagine cutting hair all day, right? Working super hard, then editing that content for like 4 hours, right? Staying up so freaking late, doing that every single day for 2 months, and just to not see one video break over 10K views. A lot of you guys would quit, right? But the fact that I didn't quit is the exact reason why I'm at where I'm at today, right? You guys need to get relentless with this. There was so much mental challenges that I had to go through, right? I started second guessing myself. Is this gonna work out? Right? Every time I would think that, I just had to reframe, like, just keep doing the work, right? I had to keep putting the inputs in. I had to keep doing the inputs in order to get to the result where I'm at today, right? Without even seeing any results. right? I had to keep recording content. I had to keep editing content. I had to make sure I posted content every single day, and I posted for 2 years straight without missing a single freaking day. If you don't believe me, go scroll all the way to the bottom of my Reels tab, click on the Reels, and you'll see. If you scroll for 2 years straight, you will see every single day I posted consistently, right? And it wasn't until I truly mastered doing the inputs every single day without seeing results, it wasn't until then where I actually started seeing my business blow the fuck up. It's that same consistency that's allowed me to be the person I am today, right? It's because I kept my word to myself and I did the work without expecting immediate results. And I did that over a period of time that's allowed me to be relentless, right? That's allowed me to get the results that I have today, right? There's one thing in common between those two phases of my life, right? The first phase where I was in Seattle, right? I was depressed as fuck. I was had a bunch of FOMO, right? To also the point where I was actually in Santa Barbara. I was living the college experience, but then I ended up being depressed again. There's one thing in common in those two phases of my life, which is I did the work relentlessly. I never focused on the results. Only thing I focused on was showing up every single day and being a man of my own word to myself, right? Without doing those things, I would not be where I'm at today. If I never invested in myself, if I never took a risk, if I never put real pressure on myself to succeed, right? If I never got uncomfortable investing in order for my success to thrive, to succeed, to see real results, I really do not think I would be where I'm at today because I would have stayed comfortable. I would have still operated like the person I was 2 years ago, the person who was comfortable smoking weed all the time, drinking, right? Chasing the college experience, right? If I had never invested in myself and took the risk, I would not be where I'm at today. Because at the end of the day, pressure truly makes diamonds. Without pressure, you will never succeed, right? So, if you're watching this video, I just want you to ask yourself, are you staying comfortable? And are you okay with that? If 5 years go by and you're in the exact position where you're at right now, can you truly look back at those 5 years and be happy with those results? If yes, then keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on living that comfortable life, right? It's not bad whatsoever. It's a choice at the end of the day, right? But if you're actually someone that wants to change their position, that actually wants more for their life, who actually wants to overcome the challenges in order to become the best version of yourself, I want to invite you to take real action. There's going to be a link down below to book a call with me specifically so that we can actually go ahead and lock you in and up your life, up your business, and overall help you actually live a fulfilled life that you want to continue to live every single day.